Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa and today I am ranking all the Twilight movies. So I've decided to have a fun binge fest where I watch all the Twilight movies, and I've decided to rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. So this is only my opinion. If your ranking is totally different, I totally understand. But this was a really interesting experience because I haven't watched these movies for a really long time and I kind of forgot about Twilight for a long time. So it's fun to revisit it and see how I feel as an adult woman. Without further ado, let's start with number 5.
You're impossibly fast and strong. Your skin is pale white and ice cold. Your eyes change color. And sometimes you speak like you're from a different time. I know what you are.
Say it. Out loud. Say it.
Vampire.
My number 5th position is actually the first movie, Twilight. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but I don't think it's very good, and it's not the whole production. I think the big critique I have is the 2 leads in this film, unfortunately, and I feel so bad saying that, but I really feel like Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson was the wrong choice. I was never convinced that they were in love. They're just so stiff and awkward that I couldn't feel chemistry at all, and I couldn't believe that they were in love, and I just felt every scene that they were in, which was a lot and the majority of it, really awkward. There was no feeding back and forth between the 2 characters. The other thing I don't like was the voiceovers, especially in the beginning, but also throughout the film. I feel like if you have to rely on voiceover, that means you're not showing enough in the film. I don't like being told things in films. I don't think it's overly necessary to do that. I think you should only use voiceover if it adds something, but not if you can't somehow portray it in the shots that you're doing. So I was getting annoyed by that, and I remember distinctly that they had a moment where she had a voiceover where she said she was in love with Edward. And I found that so frustrating. It's I hate the fact that they have to tell me that she's in love and that they couldn't really show it. I enjoyed every side character. They were my favorite part of the whole film, and I feel like they really stood out to me more than the 2 leads. The 2 scenes I did really like. The one romantic scene, I guess. Edward saves Bella from a group of men. She's out alone, and so she had to meet up with her friends at the restaurant, and they all bump into each other, and I thought that whole scene was really cute, but that was about it. And I think the whole reason the whole scene was so much better was because the other 2 actresses, Kendrick and the other friend, were there to kind of bring some life to the scene, which is so bad to say, but I really felt that way. So unfortunately I did give this 2 out of 5 stars. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, and I don't actively hate it, but I didn't like it either, which is really unfortunate. And if your 2 main leads are the wrong choice, and if it's a love story, I just feel like that ruins the whole story, and I feel so bad saying that. I'm so sorry.
Edward?
If you ever touch her against her will again!
Don't do this!
She's not sure what she wants.
Don't do this!
Let me give you a clue. Wait for her to say the words.
Fine. And she will.
Jacob, just go, okay?
Hey. Easy, guys. Easy. Let's take it down a notch. All right?
So in the number 4 spot is Eclipse. I feel weird talking about this before New Moon, but this was my second least favorite film. And I really think the thing that really bothered me the most was the whole love triangle. The love triangle was kind of dragging on. I didn't care for it, which is unfortunate because I am totally team Jacob from what I've learned from this experience. And it's mostly because I think Taylor Lautner works really well with Kristen Stewart. I feel since she's so stiff, like I've said before, and he's not, it kind of works well. I just didn't like dragging out the love triangle. I know that's a pretty common trope when it comes to young adult stories. I was just getting annoyed, and I couldn't even enjoy the kissing scene between her and Jacob, because I know from what I remember she was loving both boys at the same time, and so this was kind of her moment with Jacob. But in the film it felt like she was only doing it so he wouldn't keep fighting, because it was during the final confrontation. The vampires were after Bella, and so he was there to help protect her, and he wanted to join the fight, and she like, no, don't go, I love you, or whatever. And then they have this big romantic scene, and I felt like I couldn't even enjoy it because I felt like she was doing that only to prevent him from going, and I didn't like that, even though technically she's in love with both of them. I don't know. I really enjoy the backstory for Jesper and Rosalie. I really enjoy kind of the expansion or their backstories. I think Jesper has become like one of my favorite characters. It's been cool to expand it on all the characters, but obviously they don't have enough time. I enjoyed all the fighting scenes, and so the fighting scenes in here definitely elevated the story. Anyways, moving on.
Bella!
Run! Jake, run!
In the number 3 spot, I have New Moon, which I'm kind of surprised because I thought maybe this would be my favorite film, but it wasn't. But I really enjoyed this installment, especially since having just watched Twilight. I really felt like Taylor Lautner brought a lot to this film. I think he's the best in this one. He's not my favorite in the later films, but this one specifically, especially since we were getting his and Bella's love story, I really enjoyed their story arc. I really believe that they were falling in love. I really believe that he was completely infatuated with her. I 100% believed it. And honestly, I loved the mirror kisses more than the actual kiss in Eclipse, in my opinion, because I just really felt the chemistry between them. And I definitely believe it's because of Taylor Lautner. Like, he definitely brought his A game to this film, which I really appreciate. I love learning like his journey as well, where he's struggling with becoming a werewolf and what's being put on him, and I really loved it. Like, I honestly did. There are still some things that I didn't like. I found it super annoying, like the whole Edward flashes while she was doing like becoming an adrenaline junkie, basically. I didn't like that storyline. I know that was from the books and stuff, but I just thought it was so weird, and I hated the fact that she was only spending time with Jacob in order to become an adrenaline junkie. Like, she wanted these motorcycles so she can start riding, and so hopefully she can get glimpses of Edward. And so I wish we had more moments between her and Jacob, because I am team Jacob. I think they are the better match. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed this installment a lot more, especially in compared to Twilight. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Also, the shots between Bella and Edward was a lot more believable. I think the way they shot it, I think they got someone a lot more qualified to take the specific shots or just direct each camera better. Like, I noticed that the camera angles really made me believe that they were in love. I thought that was interesting, that just a little bit of work helped a lot. I don't think they did much more. I think it was more a camera work, so I find that really interesting. I also put I loved all the werewolf scenes. I think that's true. I like how the werewolves transition. I like those moments, and werewolves are just cool. Like, they're so much fun. Okay, and the number 2 spot is Breaking Dawn Part 2. I've been debating about my order, but I've decided this is where it's going to be. I'm not going to change it. But honestly, I think the reason why this is in Part 2 is because the last scene, like the whole battle sequence, was my favorite thing in the entire film, or this entire saga. Like, that was the best moments, and I've never felt such strong emotions throughout the entire saga. So that's why this is a number 2 spot. It's been a struggle debating whether this or New Moon should be in the 2nd spot, but the whole battle sequence was just so good. I'm also mad and a little peeved because, spoiler alert, it was all in Allison's head. And I honestly thought that they changed things and that they were going in this direction and that they were making amendments and going this dark way, but they didn't. And honestly, I was totally there for it. I thought it was a really good choice, just like everyone dying and it just being this huge tragedy, but somehow they still win in the end, which would have sucked and been really sad. But I definitely felt all the emotions. And, you know, to me, if I was able to feel those emotions and get really upset during this huge battle sequence, that means that's really good storytelling. But then, no, everything's okay. And I know that's how most people really want the stories to end. And I know a lot of young adult stories end that way, where they make you think something's going to happen and then it doesn't and everything's okay. Even just going through the emotions and then feeling the relief is good for people, but I prefer the tragic direction, which sounds awful. So, but that whole battle sequence was the best fight scene in the entire saga, and I think it's just the best scene at all. I really enjoyed that whole segment. But besides that, it was really, really, really boring. The first half was just so boring. I honestly think that they should have combined part 1 and part 2 and made just one long movie. Maybe that's just me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here on this glorious day to witness the union of Edward Cullen and Bella Swan.
So finally, my number 1 was Breaking Dawn Part 1. This was my favorite film out of the entire saga. This was such a surprise. I think I have seen every movie before, and I know I have seen this one before, but it was honestly really good. I enjoyed almost everything about it, which I was just so surprised by, because like every other movie previous wasn't as good. I enjoyed the wedding scene, I enjoyed the honeymoon moments, and I think my favorite part was all the pregnancy stuff. And I think it's just because it's so relatable to me. Like, I'm married and I have 2 kids, and I've personally had like traumatic like labor situations for myself, so it was very relatable. And I think out of the entire film, my favorite part was the labor scene, which sounds so bad, but like it was really horrific and scary. And even though I know how it ends, like it really felt believable that she could die and that she wouldn't be coming back. That was an amazing scene. That's probably another favorite scene out of the whole saga, was the labor scene. It was really terrifying, and I loved the like top-down shots of her like in the bed with all this blood and it's seeming like she was never going to come back. So I thought that was really good, and I just enjoyed that her and Jacob had finally like moved on and that they could just be friends, which is just like a sigh of relief. And the wedding was kind of fun. I loved the speeches. That was such a funny moment. I wish they brought more humor, I think, to the films. There were some moments where they would say something where it's a bit like third wall breaking, kind of poking fun at the film or different ideas. And I did enjoy those moments as well. My favorite and only scene I like between Bella and Edward, which is awful to say, was the moment where she's still pregnant and somehow they're able to communicate with the baby. I did really enjoy that. That was my favorite scene of them, that felt like actually like they're in love and they were happy and they were excited for their baby. I think that was one of their best moments throughout the entire saga. And they did make Kristen Stewart look really sick. That was crazy. I thought that was pretty impressive. That whole thing was scary. I honestly thought that whole storyline was horrific, because the thought of like not knowing what's in you and it could be like a monster and it could just like eat out of you, like that's terrifying. Like, whoa. And of course I didn't like the CGI baby stuff. I thought it was worse in part 2 actually. I think the CGI baby wasn't as bad as a CGI little girl, but I don't like CGI people in general. Like, I don't like when movies decide to go that direction. I would rather them just use a real person. I know Twilight's not the only film that's ever done this. I just wish films wouldn't be going this way, because I'd rather you just pick someone because it looks more real. You can always tell something's a little bit off. It was a choice and they made it, and so there you go. The last film I gave 4 out of 5 stars, so it's not a perfect movie, but this movie specifically is my favorite, and I enjoyed it a lot more in compared to the other films. So that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love to know your ranking of all these films. So leave your comments down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comments. I do plan to read the books at some point. I don't know when, but I will be doing that and maybe making another ranking video. If you have any suggestions for video ideas that you would like me to make, please leave them down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. If you have not done so, you can follow me on Goodreads and Instagram. And you know what? I want you to keep reading. Bye.